Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the Pork Queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. I'm Justin Brady, and today we're joined by Ed Lyon, the director of Reiman Gardens in Ames. Ed, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's exciting.
It is, yeah, it is. So obviously we want to talk about this winter. Now you have a name for it, Winter Wonderscape, but basically it's kind of a winter wonderland you've built up there in Ames. So we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a second. Before we do, though, we're going to talk about the background of Reiman Gardens, what it is, and as a reminder, everyone, make sure to subscribe to the show. It's everywhere. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. Those are the two big ones, but you'll also find it on Amazon and even X.com, formerly known as Twitter. We upload all our shows there as well. So, Ed, thank you for coming. I think the best place to start would be, what is Reiman Gardens for people that don't know? I don't think this isn't like podcast filler. I legit think people don't fully understand what Reiman Gardens is, because I think if I'm correct here, it's actually much bigger than the Des Moines Botanical Gardens that get a little bit, they get some attention south of you, correct?
That's correct. And we are larger in size. We are 17 acres.
Oh my gosh, 17. Yeah, that's huge. Okay, that was one of my questions, going to be how big is this? So yeah, give us that deep dive or that quick background of what Reiman Gardens is, and then we'll talk about this kind of winter wonderscape that you've built.
Sure. Reiman Gardens is first and foremost a public garden or a botanic garden, however you want to term it. So where we function as any public garden you might go to. We have what we're considered part of the museum industry because we hold collections. We hold collections of plants. So you'll come here and you will see in the 17 acres of outdoor, you're going to see all kinds of beds of plants and trees and different themes. But we also have one of only a handful of butterfly conservatories that flies butterflies all year round. And then there's also a conservatory attached to the building where we change that 4 times a year to a completely different theme. So we have to have some of that indoor stuff for the terrible months of winter when there's not so much outside.
And that's so you change the conservatory 4 times a year?
We do.
Wow, I did not know that. That's crazy. That's a lot of work.
Yep. Right now, it has our applied imagination train. This is unique. There's only 18 organizations in North America that has this type of railway. They're artists, and they create buildings, train trestles. It's all out of natural materials, and you have to see it to believe it. You think, well, that sounds pretty hokey, but
I wasn't going to say that.
An artist can take a year to create one of these buildings. They're exquisite. So we run that over the holiday season, and then in January we'll change it to something else. And like I said, there's 4 different times that will change it out.
That's okay. So you've thrown out a lot, and you've previewed a lot of amazing stuff we're going to get into. But well, you did say something that kind of caught me off guard here. You mentioned that you're kind of classified almost in 2 spaces. Obviously, gardens. You're classified in the garden space. But you said you're classified in like the museum space because you have collections. Like walk me through that a little bit, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, public gardens have always been part of the museum industry. It's just because we don't have museum in the name. People don't think that we're living museum because our collections are all plant materials. And plus the butterflies we have here. So it's different than what you think of standardly as a museum, because our collections, and they're all categorized just like any museum would do.
Yeah, that's okay. So there are a few things before we get into a couple of the other things. You mentioned the Applied Imagination Garden Railway. You mentioned the butterflies. But how many plant varieties are there at Reiman Gardens? Like, what are we talking? How big is this?
Oh, you're talking probably...
It probably changes, well, I guess quarterly, probably.
Well, in our outdoor gardens, we will go through our spring with 50,000 tulips that then transition into annuals. So there's thousands of plants in what are transitory plant materials. But then we also have the perennials, the trees and shrubs that come back every year. I don't know the exact count, but you're talking in tens of thousands.
Gosh, tens of thousands. Like I said before when we started this thing out, I don't think most Iowans, I would dare to say most Iowans who've actually been at Reiman Gardens probably don't fully understand just how big and how many plant varieties there really are. So there's a lot to talk about, obviously, but let's start with the seasonal thing, which is, what is this Winter Wonderscape? Because you've decked out the gardens. I mean, it's kind of, from the images, because I haven't been there quite yet, but from the images, it kind of looks like something out of a kid's book.
Well, we are a holiday light show. Many people are very familiar with municipal holiday light shows. Most cases, municipal ones, you're driving through. Many public gardens do the same kind of light show on their grounds, but the difference is you walk through it. It's a whole different and more intimate experience that you're walking through all of these different, we have like different themes as you walk through, all this extravagant lights. And so I think people are probably more familiar with those types of shows that you drive through than the ones that you walk through. Obviously, we wouldn't have the ability to put cars through here anyway.
Yeah, so it's a walk through light show. How about is it cover the entire gardens, or is it?
It's all 17 acres.
It's all 17 acres.
It is.
So, do you have any fun little stats on that? I mean, I didn't tell you we were going to talk about this, but do you know how many thousands of lights there are, or how many displays, or anything to give people a sense of the scale?
A lot of these places try to advertise how many lights,
right,
and it's very difficult to ever figure that out. But, the number of sort of display areas, there's got to be 12, 15 anyway. Anything from our children's garden has a building that represents a corn crib. We've got disco balls in there. We have lighted tunnels you go through. There's one called the Tricklet Tunnel, where you have all these lights hanging down that you actually walk through. Think of the old beaded curtains.
Oh, yeah.
And the lights, they're on a system where they all are constantly changing, and you're literally walking through and parting them. That's one of the things I think people find really fun. But we have a huge giant snowflake in our garden that has a 40-foot diameter pool. There's a giant lighted fountain in there. So all kinds of fun things.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. So you did, let's move, how long is this running? Is it running now until the end of the year? Is it running through January? How much time do people have to go actually check this out?
Yeah, it's a total of 14 nights, but we've only been through 5 so far. So the next 3, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, all the way up to New Year's Eve. So there's 9 more that are available.
Okay, got it. So that's good to know. And obviously, Reiman Gardens, do you need to get tickets in advance, or is this something you can just show up and park and walk in?
No, we actually have a ticketing system that groups people by half-hour slots. So you go online, you get your ticket for the time slot that you want to come. And now I'll tell you, this past Thursday and past Friday and Saturday nights, we sold out.
Oh,
So that's very possible. So if you want tickets, I encourage you to get in there. The Christmas week tends to be our biggest or largest nights, because that's when people from out of town and families want to take them to something like this show.
Oh, so this is actually a really good tidbit, because if you just randomly show up, it might be difficult to get in then. So probably a good idea to get tickets in advance.
Yep. If you randomly show up, the only way you're going to get in is if we haven't filled for that night, because it's not a good experience for people if it's overcrowded.
Yeah.
So that's why we figure out what is the best viewing within a certain amount of time, so the people who come can have the best experience possible.
So I know listeners are screaming at their podcast things saying, ask about the applied imagination thing. What is that? And what's up with butterflies? And what's up with the children's garden? So we're going to tackle all of those. Let's start with the Applied Imagination Garden Railway. Applied Imagination, that's like an entity that actually comes in and does this. So it's not like the name of the thing. It's an actual, like, they're artisans that come in and build this. And it's not a human railway. It's like a kind of a model train. Is this a good kind of way to sum that up?
Yes, it's what they call G-scale. The reason they call these trains, you know how different trains have different scales. G-scale trains are used in outdoor settings. So railroad enthusiasts that put up tracks outdoors. So they're larger than some of the trains that you might think about from your past. And we change the engines. There's actually 3 trains running, and we change them around, so it's not always the same trains. And there's 3 different tracks as well that go around this conservatory.
Okay, so it's like almost an adult version of, I mean, I don't want to say adult, but I know plenty of adults that have model trains, but it's almost like a beefed up version of a model train then.
It is, exactly.
And how big is this? Is this taking that whole, you mentioned the garden or the space it was in. How big is this?
Our conservatory is 10,000 square feet.
And okay, so it stretches the whole way?
There's one end of it yet that we hope to get a track into, but it does take most of it. You have a lower track that there's a center bed. The lower track goes around the center bed, but the upper track, which is, if you put your hand up, it'd be about that height, that runs much more extensively through. So you have a train running on an even larger track.
So is this like a separate thing? Because I know some people are like, okay, this is actually starting to become a lot. This isn't a simple, like Reiman Gardens has a winter thing. There's like the train thing, and there's the winter thing, and we're going to talk about the children's garden and the butterflies. Are these all in different spaces? Like, or, do they need to pay for a ticket for everything? Or can you kind of pick your own adventure when you go to the website?
Actually, the train show is separate from the light show, and that's in part because in that space, we can't put that many people through and have a good experience. We have families. Everybody loves trains, from the child to the parent to the grandparent. So when they come into that train show, they want to have the space so the kids can kind of run around, and that's just simply not possible with the light show. So the light show is a ticketed event, whereas the train show is just general admission into the gardens, and you can see the train show, plus everything else here in the gardens.
Got it. So if you want to go for the light show or want to go just for the train thing, you can obviously do that. Now, the other thing you threw out there was the year round, right? Did I hear this correctly? You mentioned that butterflies are flying year round. So obviously there's this is an indoor component. Can people actually watch butterflies? Like, I don't know if the right term is hatch. I don't think it's hatch, but it's probably, go from caterpillar state to butterfly. Can people actually watch this process happening year round then?
They can, because this type of year-round system is USDA approved. I mean, we have to go through all kinds of hoops to make sure it is. We have a lab where a lot of the work is done. The lab has a big window that looks out into the conservatory. And in there, we have hatching cases. We get shipments of butterflies every week because they don't live very long. We have volunteers who then glue either chrysalids or cocoons onto these racks so people can see them. And then you watch them as they hatch. Wow. Once they've all hatched, then we transport them into the conservatory where they fly.
Oh, so that's where, okay, so there's a special place to watch them hatch, and then you move them all into the conservatory.
That's correct. And so the conservatory is all lovely plants and trees and things of that nature. And then you walk in, and the butterflies are flying around you. They might even land on you.
Wow. Okay, so this is, again, another immersive experience where there are butterflies all around you. Indoors, and then of course in the gardens. So how many butterfly varieties are there? And like obviously, I'm asking you a lot of how many questions, like how many lights and how many plants. But I mean, generally, is it like one species? Is it a couple? Is it dozens?
Oh, no. We actually have permits for 800 species.
My gosh. Yeah.
Now, you're not going to see all those species in there at any given time, obviously, but my entomologist wants to make sure he has a permit for every possible butterfly we could get. So then if it becomes available, we can't say, oh, well, we can't take it because we don't have a permit. But we fly 800 a week during the summer because it's a fairly tall glass house. And so they tend to go up where the heat is. In the winter, they stay down lower. So we fly 400 a week in the winter time.
Oh, they stay down. Is that because they're like, they need to stay warm? And if they go up higher, it's cold? What's the deal with that?
Absolutely. Butterflies are very, very, they're much more active when there's sunlight, very heat dependent.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. So year-round butterflies, the train, the Winter Wonderscape, but then also, I mean, there's a lot of questions I have for you, but there's also the children's garden. So what's so different about the children's garden, and how is that different from like Reiman Garden as a whole?
Well, it's geared specifically for activities for children. So there's one garden that we plant differently every year because it's all annuals. It may have some theme in it, like plants that you would touch, feel, smell, and then of course some educational interpretation. Because of Iowa's agricultural history, like I said, there's a very large building that we can hold classes in that looks like a corn crib, and then there's a covered bridge. So you get that sense of Iowa's agricultural history. There's a splash pad. There's just a number of different areas where those activities are geared to the parent and child. And we do children's programs in them as well. That's part of our education.
Right. And so obviously the splash pad's probably not open in the winter, I would guess, but there's a ton.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So parents who are terrified that don't want to get their kids wet in the winter, don't worry about it. It's you don't have to worry about it. No, that's and I noticed like on the website, there's like, I don't even know what this means, but there's like a hideout for the kids and tumbling mounds. What are those things?
Well, the tumbling mounds are just as simple as they're mounds that are part of a larger lawn. So they're also covered with the same lawn grass. There's two of them. And it's funny you say that because when I first started working here, I look at them and I see they're called tumbling mounds, and I'm thinking, who's going to tumble? And kids love it.
Sure.
They're not like ski slopes or anything like that. But smaller kids love to walk up them and then roll down them.
And what's the hideout thing?
The hideout is sort of a circular, it's walled-in area. It's open to the air, but it has a frame over it that we grow vines in. There's little chairs in there. Right next to it, one of the big things for children's gardens right now is called nature play. And that is bringing in all kinds of components like stumps and branches and things of that nature. And the kids create from the raw products. And I think that's great. Yep.
Wait, this is okay. Walk me through that. And by the way, it sounds like you have an elephant or an animal in the background there. So if anybody's wondering what that is, it's probably
I'm sorry, you hear that? They're on the other side of my wall doing construction.
Yeah, you got to keep things fresh over there, right? This is evidence to everybody listening that you guys are never the process of improving Reiman Gardens never stops.
Well, we're replacing the entire system that controls all of our the two conservatories I told you about and our production houses. So as you can imagine, heat, lighting, fans, all of those things these days are controlled by one center system.
Yeah.
And ours was antiquated, and so that's being replaced.
So let's dive in a little bit to the creation aspect you were talking about for kids. I wasn't aware of that. They can like build or like create stuff. Can walk me through how that works.
Yeah. For example, I grew up on a farm in upstate New York, and my two brothers and I, we'd go into the woods, we'd chop down trees, we actually made a cabin with just using axes.
Well, that's cool.
So it's that whole putting kids, and again, they're not going to chop down trees. That stuff's already been done for them.
Good clarification. Don't bring your axes, everybody.
Yeah.
No need to bring that.
But it's very popular now because in the past, most children's gardens had these activities all created. Every time you came in, it was the same exact activity. And so research has shown that that doesn't expand their imagination. So like my brothers and I, we imagined things and we built things as a result. And that's what nature play is about. The Greater Des Moines Botanic Garden has just added one, and the Brenton Arboretum close to here also has one. So it's quite a trend today in public gardens as we continue to research and find the best ways to educate children about nature, because we're as much about nature as we are about horticulture.
Right, and you don't want like that. That makes a lot of sense because adults too, but kids don't want to just walk through and observe. They want to engage. They want to work with their hands. They want to touch and feel and create, right? So it does make a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense that we'd move from just walk through and look, and then you have a tour guide that'll talk to you about the history or how things work. Like that's certainly interesting, but to have that engaging component where you can create really pulls them in and really engages their brain. That's really cool. So I also wanted to talk about there's again a lot of stuff here, but is there a research component to the gardens as well? Because I know you're partnered with Iowa State. So is there this relationship where they use the gardens to run trials or research new plants or something like that?
We're used more as a location for classes. If somebody had a research project that would fit into the gardens that then wouldn't interrupt for the public what they're coming in to see, then we would probably let a student do that. But we're really not so much a site for research as we are as an outdoor classroom and education from that level.
Right. So the whole point then, the whole mission and focus of Reiman Gardens is to educate the Iowa community, and of course anybody coming to the state, obviously, on plants and outdoors, and educate people on, basically educate the community on that stuff. I'm not summing this up really well, but that's the mission and vision, it sounds like.
Well, public gardens started out to show gardeners how they can garden, and then expanded outward from that. And today includes components like sustainability issues. We just held one of the first plant and climate change symposia. A lot changes constantly in gardening, in horticulture. So you want to keep up with it. You want to help your public keep up
Sure.
with, what is the current research? What are the current initiatives? So, but we're also a place of beauty. We're a place of rest. Public gardens after COVID in 2021 were flooded with people because
wow.
they suddenly realize we're a place you can just come in. It's beautiful. You can relax. You can let your worries and cares, go away. So it's not just education. We're also here for that particular reason as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a therapist, just to clarify everybody, but when I'm stressed out or have some anxiety over some future project or something that's not quite going right, there is, at least for me, no better antidote than to getting out in nature near trees and water sources and grasses. That just seems to remedy a lot of that stress, and it just kind of falls off. That and a good workout, those both help me a lot. So, yeah, the post-COVID, or I guess kind of during that COVID era, I can really see why that would help a lot of people. It's fascinating. There are a few other little projects that you're doing as well. I know that the gardens are instrumental, or you have a project to feed people that are hungry. Can you talk about that a little bit too as we start to wrap this up?
Yeah, it's a program called Plant a Row, and the reason it's Plant a Row is the initiative when it started was gardeners would plant an extra row of something that then would go, in this case, to folks in need. So we run a Plant a Row program here where not only does all of the produce that we grow, because we trial different vegetables through a project, but we also collect from our farmers markets. There are farmers, small farmers that donate to this. So all through the growing season, every Monday, people bring us produce, we collect produce, and all of that then goes, like I said, to food pantries and churches and places that are in need. And we just found out this year that zoos will take the overripe produce. So in the past, you threw away what was overripe because people couldn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually a tortoise facility right here in Ames, sanctuary. And so the Blank Park Zoo, the tortoise, we're even sending produce there. And this year, it tallied up to well over 4,000 pounds of produce that we distributed.
Wow, that's significant. And so that's all being grown here.
That is correct. And, nutrition, especially for the young, is so important. And so providing fresh produce, stuff that hasn't been grown, mass produced, shipped, chemicals. And it's a way to also show people how important it is, if you've got the space, to grow your own food and how much more healthy it is.
Yeah, and it's like someone was telling me the other day, like one of the aspects of sustainability and lowering emissions is local. Like, people talk about local as if it's this badge of honor they wear, like we source locally grown produce. But actually that's really, really good because it lessens the mile driven. It lessens, emissions into the atmosphere. But the most, the very important thing is when produce is locally grown. And see, I just learned this, I think, a couple of years ago. There is a higher nutrition content because, normally if things are going to be trucked further, they have to do certain things to kind of preserve the produce. And so is there more to that? Or am I right in saying that if it's locally grown, there's a higher nutrition content and it's better for you?
Absolutely. Take tomatoes, for example. They're picked, not ripe. Mass produced and shipped somewhere. That's why you can hardly eat a tomato in the wintertime. They have this tough skin, and they're just not the tomato that we get when we're growing them ourselves. But most definitely. And just the fact that it's fresher. You're going to get more nutrition out of the freshness, and so much of the produce we have in our grocery stores are shipped, and there's days in between by the time they hit the shelves.
Yeah, so when people say like, "Oh, there's nothing like a homegrown like a tomato or a jalapeno or a zucchini out of your garden, there's actually a lot of truth to that. It's not in your head. It does taste better, and it does have a lot better nutrition for you. And so if someone really wants to grow their own vegetables and they want to do that for their kids and their family, probably a great place to go to understand how to start would be Reiman Gardens, I would guess, right, Ed?
That's part of our purpose.
So I really appreciate your time. Before I let you go, what's the website so people can check out the Winter Wonderscape? But it's a lot of programs that you have. So how can people figure all that stuff out and find information?
Yep, it's very easy. It's just ReimanGardens.com. There is a little short video on our homepage where you can see some of that light show. And of course, you can find out everything else that you want to know about the gardens.
Excellent. Ed, I really appreciate you coming on the Iowa podcast. Thanks so much for your time.
And thank you for having me.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa podcast.